Hi there, folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. So great to be along with you. I am so happy about gun owners and good news for them. At least the statistics back up that good guys with guns stop bad guys with guns, and they do it in a very, very safe manner, more effectively even than police. And police do it pretty darn effectively. So this is a study by the Crime Prevention Research Center we're going to talk about today that 51% of active shooter situations were stopped by a concealed handgun license holder, and only 44% were stopped by police. All right, so this is really pretty amazing. There's some other statistics in here you're going to have to see. I promise you this study is going to be used in state houses across the country to back up the idea that good guys with guns make everyone around them safer. So we're going to talk about that on the program today. We got Stephen Moore is with us as well, President Trump's economic advisor, to talk about tariffs. And yes, there are some concerns over this, but he's going to, quote, walk you off the cliff. That from Stephen Moore a little bit later in the program. But before we get to that, folks, I want to tell you about my friends over at Colonial Metals Group. There is no doubt that massive amounts of gold is being flown into the United States. The central banks are hoarding it. Big investment banks are hoarding it. These vaults and mints are hoarding it. This is creating a shortage of gold. This is going to continue for a very long time. Now, if you want to take part in what I believe is a portfolio protection maneuver, you've got to get with my friends at Colonial Metals Group. They're great about taking a portion of your 401k or IRA, turning it into a precious metals 401k or IRA, and no cost out of pocket, by the way. Here's what you do. You go to freegoldguide.com/grant, freegoldguide.com/grant. They're going to send you back a guide to owning gold that's actually really, really very useful and it's filled with information. freegoldguide.com/grant. And I'll leave you with this. We now face $36 trillion in debt. Even with the Doge team, that's not going anywhere. Gold has stood the test of time, and I believe firmly, my opinion is it will continue to stand the test of time when it comes to protecting portfolios. It's estimated by most that it could go up anywhere from 10 to 35% over the next year. So I urge you, how much is right with you for you to invest? Get with Colonial Metals Group. freegoldguide.com/grant. freegoldguide.com/grant. I'll tell you what, folks, I love stories, studies, whatever, that make law-abiding gun owners not just look good, but prove that they are good. How long have I been telling you good guys with guns make everybody around them safer? I'm telling you, me carrying my firearm, everyone in the room is safer because of it. All right? And that's the case for most concealed handgun license holders. Everyone around them is a little bit safer. In fact, what's that? That's my definition of a man. You make everybody around you just a little bit safer. So I saw this study by the Crime Prevention Research Center about active shooting situations and concealed handgun license holders, helping to stop them. And do you know that of the 180 active shooter situations studied, 51.6 of them were stopped by a CHL holder, 44.6 stopped by police. So you've got active shooter situations stopped more often than not from a concealed handgun license holder than you do from police. Now, this is not to take away from police, but it certainly is to give props to the CHL holders out there, and they are not the danger that the left wants you to believe that they are. So with that, I want to bring in the author of that study, the researcher himself, Dr. John Lott with the Crime Prevention Research Center. Dr. Lott, it's great to have you back on the program. Thanks for coming on.
No, it's great to talk to you again. Thanks for having me on.
All right. So this to me is an exciting story because I think it'll be used in every state house across the country by Republicans who are trying to defend gun owners' rights to carry in public. This is a great reason why you should be allowed to carry in public.
Yeah, there are 350 of these active shooting attacks that have occurred over the last decade from 2014 to 2023. And we wanted to kind of do it. The FBI puts out a report each year on these cases, but we wanted to kind of do a deep dive on them to kind of compare it to concealed carry permit holders. You see on entertainment TV police shows all the time that, if they show somebody with a concealed carry permit, something goes wrong. Either they accidentally shoot a bystander, or they get shot themselves, or they get in the way of the police, or guns taken away from them. Something always seems to go wrong, and we wanted to actually see what the numbers were on this. And what we find is that not only do they stop these attacks successfully at a higher rate than police do, and there's a simple reason for that, and that is police have a very difficult job. If you have somebody in uniform, and the attacker looks around before they start their attack, if they see somebody in uniform, they'll likely wait until after the person leaves, or they'll move on to another area themselves. But it also turns out that police have a much riskier job in stopping these attacks than a civilian who's carrying concealed does, is because the attacker doesn't know who they need to take out if there's a civilian with a concealed carry permit. If you have lots of adults in the area and somebody has a concealed carry permit, they don't know whether the person's behind them or front, or where the person might be who can stop them. So it means, one, that the person is there much faster, much more likely to be there when the attack starts, and that's one reason why they stop them at a higher rate. But it also means that it's more difficult for these attackers to kill them. What you find is that police who try to stop these attacks are actually killed at a rate that's about 6 times higher than the rate that civilians are killed, and they're wounded at a much higher rate also.
Wow. So let me go through some of those statistics that you found in your study. So of the 180 incidents that you studied, real quick, you mentioned a number of 300, but this is 180. What's the disparity there? 300 and something active shooters versus the 180 we have here.
Well, the 350 is all the active shooting cases. The 180 are the ones involving a concealed carry permit holder.
Understood. Okay. So of the 180 that involves a CHL holder, you have 0 interfered with police. 2 of them out of 180 lost their lives. 44 out of 180 were injured in the line of trying to save others. 58 out of the 180 prevented a mass public shooting, which means they probably got the active shooter before the shooter got anybody else, right? Is that what that is?
No, it just means that before that they were, so these are statements from the police, whether they think a mass public shooting was stopped or not. And they have some idea what the motive of the person was. They know whether they were in a place where there were lots of people there. They know whether they had started shooting at lots of people and were going to continue to do it because they had lots of ammunition on them. And so police say, it looks really likely that this person would have killed as many people as he could have if the concealed carry permit holder wasn't there.
All right. So this is, I think, one of the most important statistics that you found, that, and I'm going to say only, now every life is precious, but only one time out of the 180 times a CHL holder stopped a mass shooting, you have one bystander accidentally shot. Now, this is the argument from the left. Oh, the CHL is going to kill all these innocent bystanders. This happened only once, and I will offer up this. That happened once. If that CHL holder's not there, an entire movie theater could be wiped out. An entire mall could be wiped out, correct?
Right. So these aren't all mass public shootings. These are the definition of an active shooting, which is the FBI's definition. And they're looking at places where guns fired in public could be anything from one person being shot at and missed all the way up to a mass public shooting. But they exclude cases where robbery was involved, or some type of gang fight over drug turf, any other type of crime where the whole point of the attack was to go and harm other people. But yeah, no, I mean, you're right. There are lots of lives that were saved in many of these cases that were there. And the police themselves said in the cases where they think a mass public shooting was stopped, the police have said that if it wasn't for the presence of the individual, many lives would have been lost.
So only one accidental bystander shot. in these CHL
Right.
incidents. But when it comes to police,
Right.
they've shot more bystanders by accident than the CHL holders, correct?
Right. Right. In that one case, the person was wounded, but there are 4 cases where police accidentally killed other people. 2 of them were other police officers, and 2 of them were civilians that they accidentally shot.
All right, and I want to make this clear, and I'm assuming police are involved in a lot more shootings than CHL holders are over the course of this, so the numbers may be higher. Is that right?
Well, no, we're looking at these active shooting cases, and the number of active shooting attacks that the police stop are actually fairly similar, and
Wow.
in fact, actually a little bit lower than the number of attacks that were stopped by concealed carry permit
So
holders.
here I was trying to give police the benefit of the doubt that there's more.
Look,
so they
police
got
have
more.
a very
But-
difficult job, and I think it's important to recognize that. That's what I was trying to say before. I mean, anybody knows my general work that I've done on police knows that I think the police are the single most important factor for reducing crime.
Yeah.
The problem that when you're dealing with active shooting cases where somebody's there trying to harm other people, police have an extremely difficult job. These attackers have real tactical advantages when you're talking about an officer who's in uniform, which is what you're almost always talking about in these cases. So, an officer that's in uniform and somebody's going to go and do an attack. If they see somebody in uniform, they're going to wait for them to leave the area, or they're going to move on to another target themselves, or if they're going to go and try to take out somebody first. Who do you think they're going to take out first? They're going to take out the officer in uniform because that officer is the one person they're sure they can identify beforehand who has a gun on them. And they believe that if they can take that person out, it's going to be relatively easier for them to go after other people. So an officer, God thank them. I'm just saying that they have a much more difficult job than a concealed carry permit holder has in these cases.
John, I've known you all the way back to my NRA days, and talking about personal protection, I've always questioned in these open carry states why anyone would open carry for the exact reason that you just specified, that you become a target. The element of surprise is such a great attribute when it comes to stopping a crime in progress, a shooting in progress, and things like this. Again, John, I think your research, and so many of the studies you do, is going to be used, especially this study, to help stop these left-wing laws that are happening in state houses across the country when they try to take guns out of the hands of law-abiding citizens. What you proved here is that good guys with guns stop bad guys with guns, and in this case, more often than police do. John Lott, God bless you. God bless the Crime Prevention Research Center. You keep up all the work you can. Why don't you give me real quick, where can people find you?
They go to our website for all this information. This research is right at the top. They go to crimeresearch.org, crimeresearch.org. But nobody needs to take my word for it. All the cases are listed as well as the sources for that information, so they can go and check them out themselves.
This is what I love about you and most conservatives that do this. You put the stats and the facts right there for people to see. They'll try to argue with it, but they really can't. John Lott, we appreciate you coming on as always. And folks, I'm telling you, I think it's a really, really important story. You're welcome. I think it's such an important story, which is why I want to bring it to you, because the mainstream media is not going to cover the fact that 51.6% of active shootings stopped by CHL holders, 44.6% stopped by police. I love it. All right. Good guys with guns stop bad guys with guns. I don't think there is any dispute to that. Anybody that tells me they wouldn't rather have me in a room with their kids if I'm carrying and a deranged lunatic comes in to shoot everybody in the room, would you not rather have me there with my 9mm, highly trained, ready to take out a shooter? If you say no and you'd rather have your kids fend for themselves, you're lying to me, okay? So this idea that CHL holders stopped active shooter situations 51.6% of the time versus 44.6% against police, to me is great news. Let's go out to our good friend, Edward in Irwindale. Edward, what say you, my friend? Edward, hello? I don't hear him. Hello? Let's hold on. Edward, we're going to put you on hold. Dan,
I can't hear you.
Do we have an issue there? We shall try.
You shouldn't. I'll talk to him.
Okay, we shall try. It's Dan. Dan, it's not going through to my headphones. I'll prove it by going to Uncle Roger. Uncle Roger, let's see if you come through the phones. Uncle Roger,
Good morning,
you there?
Dan.
How are you? Okay, I'm good, buddy. What say you?
So early in the week, you brought up the story of Johnny Wachter. Here's an up-and-coming actor moonlighting as a bartender, a really young, honest, hardworking young man who has a whole bright future ahead of himself. And these scumbags, these troglodytes, these pukes, try to steal the catalytic converter off his car, and he can't protect himself. Yet these scumbags can carry as many pistols as they want. How's that even fair? I'm really afraid if this lady comes in, I don't think Katie Porter is going to be a match to her, unfortunately, only because of her name ID. She comes in, she's essentially going to be the president of California. Who knows what she's going to do with her whole defund the police mentality? This country's the fifth largest global economy. She's going to ruin it. She's going to burn it to the ground.
Yeah, that's Katie Porter you're talking about, running for governor in the state of California. She says if Kamala Harris doesn't get in, Roger, I appreciate the phone call. Thank you for weighing in. Look, there's no doubt in my mind that right here in this state that the government, whether it's Katie Porter, whether it's Gavin Newsom, whether it's Kamala Harris, they've all proven themselves to be anti-gunners. Now, there's word that this bill that was going to basically make you a criminal for not retreating, not or overshooting someone if you're defending your life. We talked about this bill. Apparently that's been pulled, and they're trying to reclarify that bill. There's no reclarification of any bill that's going to take away rights of the law-abiding citizens, especially here in California, to defend themselves. So my point to all of this is, as long as Democrats are in control of the state, they will be coming for your guns. Now, we can use studies like the one we just profiled with John Lott from the Crime Prevention Research Center to push back with statistics that literally prove good guys with guns stop bad guys with guns. That literally prove you are safer if there are more good guys with guns around you than less. This is why I don't like gun-free zones. I would rather have a movie theater filled with concealed handgun license holders. They are very responsible people. Do you know CHL holders commit crimes at a rate also lower than police officers? And don't get me wrong to my cop friends out there. The rate is very low. It's infinitesimal. But it's even lower if you're a CHL holder on the ability of committing felony crimes. So this is what we're looking at. Folks, you know I'm all about making money and making money the easy way, all right? How would you like to get up to 20% annualized income, 20% annualized interest on your investment, income paid to you monthly? This is what Get20Now.com can do for you. It's a company called NFN8. They have industrialized cryptocurrency mining. They're buying electricity so cheap. You invest with them. They, in return, pay you up to 20% annualized interest on your investment, direct deposited into your account every month. It's like cash flow while you sleep. I love this investment. I know the guys. I have invested with them, a sizable amount too, by the way, and they've lived up to their promises every step of the way. So if you don't want to take part in the wild swings of Bitcoin, but you want to get that guaranteed contractually result, Get20Now.com should be for you. I want you to talk to these guys. Talk to them directly. They're good guys. The owners will call you directly. It's not going to be some sales guy. Get20Now.com. Make sure you call them back. Answer their call when they call you. Get20Now.com. Cash flow, baby. Right into your bank account every month. 20% annualized income cannot be beat. Left-wing lunatics are freaking out about the idea of closing the Department of Education. Shutter it down. There are so many agencies that I would like to see closed. 3 at the very top of the list. Department of Education that President Trump is working on, 50% of the workforce laid off, told to leave the building, get your stuff, I almost said the S word, get your stuff out of the drawers and hightail it on out of here. Good riddance. They weren't even working. I'd love to see the EPA close down, Environmental Protection Agency. I'd love to see the Department of Energy close down. Much of the Department of Energy could be moved in the Department of Defense, and then let states take over other aspects of all of those agencies. So when I tell you they're freaking out, they're freaking out. Now, why would you freak out about giving you control of the money? If you're a child and your parents come to you and say, you know what, we're going to give you control of our debit card. And you can do what you want. If you were a child, you'd be like, this is great. I get my parents' credit card. But hopefully we have leaders at a state level that are better in tune with what the people of the state need. Probably not in California. They're not in tune with much other than their own self-gratification. So, but still, why wouldn't you give money to the states to let them disseminate it how they see best fit? Why wouldn't you do that? In my opinion, you would. This is President Trump, cut 15, talking about how this money should go back to the states. Cut 15, please.
They're not doing a good job, and if you take a look at our education process, and if you look at the charts, because they have numerous charts where they do the top 40, we're at number 37, 38, 39, and 40, and recently they hit, during Biden's last few days, they hit last, so they were number 40, and yet we're number 1 in cost per pupil. So it's pretty bad. But we have a dream, and you know what the dream is? We're going to move the Department of Education. We're going to move education into the states, so that the states, instead of bureaucrats working in Washington, so that the states can run education.
Now, how as a leftist do you argue with this? How as a leftist do you argue with, I'm going to give you more control over how you spend the money on your children? And I'm talking about administrators at a state level who would then filter the money down to a local level. You think anybody in Washington, D.C. knows what we need best in California, or what the people of Texas need, or what the people of Florida need? No. So move it to the states. Now, the head of the L.A. Unified School District, oh, man, you know these people are leftists. They claim this is a catastrophe. Why wouldn't you want direct control? I have no idea, but this is why we're failing. This is why big city schools across the country are failing, because of superintendents like L.A. Unified. Cut 27.
When they now say we're just going to send this to the states and a bigger pot of money, it's very likely that parents and students, parents of special ed students and students themselves are not going to get anywhere near what the services they need. Because the end game, a lot of us believe, is really to privatize these services. And then that public money is then, our taxes, goes away from poor kids into the hands of people who are trying to privatize it. That's the bigger, broader thing that we've seen this pattern play out for generations.
Shut them up. All right, here's the reality. See how they bring up special ed kids? They try to pull on your emotions. What about regular kids? Now, why, if you give the money to the states, would somehow you not get more money, or money spent in a legitimate way on your children? You don't think the administrators up in Sacramento know what you need in L.A. better than what somebody in D.C. needs? Now, you may be right because they're idiots in Sacramento, in California's case, but I'll take a state like Texas or Florida or Iowa or Oklahoma. I'll give it to the administrator any day of the week. But this idea of privatizing services, nobody's saying that right now. And if you privatize services, it would have to come from a state level, not a federal level. The feds can't come in and privatize your local school district and services there. That would have to come from a local level. And I would argue that if you could do it more efficiently with hiring private contractors to do it, then why wouldn't you do it? Oh, these are what charter schools are all about. They despise the idea of charter schools. Do I dare play this LA Unified dude again? Cut 28. Let's just hear what he has to say on Cut 28.
Any reduction at the federal level specific to these investments could bring about catastrophic harm in Los Angeles and across the country. That is our concern.
All right. The bottom line is the people that they laid off, many of them were not even working, as President Trump is very, very quick to point out. So as people freak out about the Department of Education having its doors shuttered, it literally hands out grant money. Now, what do you think the Department of Treasury is? What if they said, okay, we have X amount set aside for education. We take the population of every state and we divide it equally among all the states, depending on their population. And we have the Department of Treasury literally send a lump sum check to Sacramento, to Austin, Texas, to Albany, New York. What if we had the Department of Treasury do it? You don't need the Department of Education. Let the grant, if you're going to then water it down more to smaller and smaller grants, let the states do that. Let Sacramento do that. I would think that the head of schooling in Sacramento, the leader of our Department of Education, would love to have the more extra money and be able to dole out the money because that's going to give him more power. But quite frankly, I'd rather have more power at a state level than I would at a federal level. But liberals don't think like that. So Randy Weingarten, this is the head of the Federal Teachers Union. She hates the idea of improving schools. She hates the idea of having any accountability whatsoever. She's afraid of this. Cut 31.
Equally pernicious, they're saying, oh, don't worry, let's block grant it. So we'll give it to a state education department. Right. So, and then let the state education department decide what to do. So we know, for example, what Texas would do.
Right.
They'll use it for vouchers. So they won't give it to the kids who have it now. They'll just give it for vouchers.
Catholic schools, religious schools.
Oh my gosh. How dare they? Now, remember, you're giving it to the states, so California is not going to give you vouchers, people. I wish they would. But my Lord, you're going to have vouchers for religious schools? No! Don't let the children learn about God. What? Wouldn't that be nice? They just made the argument for me. But Randy Weingarten doesn't want voucher money because it makes the teachers that she represents have to be accountable. Imagine now if you're at a failing public school, but you have a voucher and you can put your kid in a non-failing school. Well, if the schools start losing kids, the teachers better do better in order to draw kids back into their school. It creates competition. This is what works. Not God. No. How does Catholic schools do it cheaper and better and teach their kids at a far greater performance rate than public schools? Well, and they have involved parents, they have involved teachers, they have involved community. And I would argue that talking about God is a pretty good thing for kids, too. Randy Weingarten literally melts down, okay? Listen to this. Cut 32. Cut 32, please.
Is why so many people are so mad about it, because they're just taking opportunity away from kids that don't have it. So kids of billionaires, they have it. They go to private schools. Everyone else, 90%, go to public schools. Don't take away their opportunity.
So let's stay on the facts.
Sorry,
no,
I'm really angry about this.
No, because this
I'm
is what
really
people
angry.
need to hear.
I taught kids in Clara Barton High School in Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, you did, huh? Well, if billionaires can send their kids to private school, why can't poor kids? Why? Because they can't afford it. Why? Because they don't have the money. Imagine if you had a voucher that you could now send your kid to private school and get a better education. Oh, Randy Weingarten, guess what? Your idiot public school teachers that are failing on every level are out of work. Why are they failing at every level? Because there is no accountability from these teachers. I'm sorry. There isn't. Are there good teachers out there at a public school level? Of course there are. But it has nothing to do with the administration. It has to do with their own commitment to the children. You got a lot of teachers that suck at their jobs right now. And you got a lot of families that aren't engaged. And I would like to give the opportunity to families that are engaged to get their kids the hell out of these failing schools by giving them vouchers. And if that's where some of the federal money goes at a state level and that's what the state wants to do with it, then so be it. Who are you to say no? The audacity of these people. I'll tell you what, folks, quite frankly, it is maddening. Listen to me, folks. You want to get in good shape? You got to get with my friends over at energizedhealth.com/Grant. These folks have helped me so much. I lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks, and I hardly even did anything. I changed the way I eat around a little bit. I was still eating many of the same foods that I always like. I changed the way I work out a little bit, but I wasn't killing myself. I wasn't really even breaking much of a sweat. But they taught me about what intercellular hydration can do to your body. It's like a miracle process that they have figured out. It's a patent-pending science. And I say about this program, Energized Health, the secret is in the simplicity of the science. But only they know about it. Intercellular hydration. I want you to learn about it, and then I know once you do, you will want to get on board with these guys. EnergizedHealth.com/Grant. There's a masterclass there that you can take, and it's about taking your body back. All right? Whether you want to lose 15 pounds and trim it up like me, or you want to lose 200 pounds, my friends at EnergizedHealth.com can help you. They've helped so many of my Stinchfield's Army listeners and viewers. Real America's Voice right here on Rumble. You're going to love these guys. And they got videos, diet. I don't even call it diet. Recipes. They have weekly Zoom calls, personal coaching. You name it. They set you up for success. EnergizedHealth.com/Grant. Pay them a visit today. I got to tell you something. I am so upset about the way we run education in this country that I love this idea of closing the Department of Education, sending the money directly to the states. Let the states worry about their own problems. Certainly the federal government isn't helping educate children. I think we can all agree on that. And if the states want to use it for a voucher program, fine. Get poor kids the ability to go to charter schools, Catholic schools. Get them into schools where they can be helped. Bottom line is, I don't even know if these federal workers were working. President Trump says they weren't. This is cut 15 for the guys behind the glass.
They're not doing a good job. And if you take a look at our education process, and if you look at the charts, because they have numerous charts where they do the top 40, we're at number 37, 38, 39, and 40. And recently they hit, during Biden's last few days, they hit.
All right, so hold on a second. Stop
So,
that one. Let's play cut 16, please. I need you concentrating, Dan, on the phone, man. You're doing something else while we're doing it. I need it concentrating. All right?
Sorry, it's all good. I heard 15. That's my bad.
Okay.
Force. And what responsibility do you feel to the civil servants who have now lost their jobs? Many of them worked at the Department of Education during your first term.
Sure, I do. I feel very badly, but many of them don't work at all. Many of them never showed up to work. Many of them never showed up to work, Kelly, and unfortunately, and that's not good. And when we cut, we go, and that's what I had a number of meetings with a lot of people over the last couple of months.
So that's the bit. Many of them aren't working, he says. Well, let's go out to line 5. Our resident liberal, Edward, the liberal black guy. What say you, Edward?
Yeah, it's Edward, the liberal black guy. Let me tell you something. I went to school in Los Angeles, okay?
Okay.
So $50 voucher, not going to get me breakfast in the morning. And those people you talk about don't get the money at the school. They're going to allocate it whatever way they want to. And people like you, Grant, you're going to get a voucher, and you don't even need it. Because when your boy gets to high school, he's going to be driving a fancy sports car because you got that money from sitting on your behind talking on the radio all day.
Yes,
my parents
Edward.
didn't have that. They didn't have that.
Edward, admit something to me, okay? You listen every day. You have to admit I entertain you. Do I not entertain you?
Grant, I got nothing against you. I really don't.
Thank you. Nothing against you, but I sit on my butt. No, but I entertain you, right? So at least I'm doing something here.
That part is true, Grant.
Okay.
Everyone would want a job where they sit and criticize people they don't like and make thousands of dollars. Everybody would want that.
Edward, first off, it's hundreds of thousands, okay? Hundreds. So let me ask you this question.
So sorry, Mr. Rich Man. So
Let
sorry.
me ask you this question, Edward. Let me ask you this question. Your children, would you not like if they gave you a $10,000 voucher to send to a Catholic school or a private school or a charter school? We have charter schools that you can go to and pay. You wouldn't want your kid to have that opportunity?
Here's your answer, dude. I sent my children to Catholic school. Okay. And I paid for it out of my pocket.
Okay, so
you're
criticizing me of having money, so God bless you, Edward. I'm glad you did, but you do admit that there are others that don't have that kind of money. Wouldn't you like them to have the same opportunity as your kids?
Yeah. I guess if you got a guarantee that it's going to really help the children. But you know what? I know what schools do. They do whatever the hell they want to with the funds they get.
Here's what I want you to know about me, Edward, and I want you to know that I'm absolutely sincere. Well, you may disagree with how I want this, but I want you to know from the bottom of my heart, I want the best for inner city kids. And I don't think they're getting the best in these failing public schools. And so if a voucher system can get them into a different school where parents have some choice of where they want to send them, then I want them to have that opportunity. Do you at least agree that I'm sincere in this?
Okay. Here's your problem. The Republican creed is, well, you know what? You can't throw money at a problem. So, you can start allocating more cash, not the solution to the problem. It's not.
But, Edward, we know we've spent billions of dollars on homeless. The homeless problem has increased. We've spent billions of dollars on education. The kids continue to fail in California. Is throwing money, is it working here?
I don't think they're throwing any money at them. I really don't.
Oh, Edward, California has one of the highest rates of what we spend on children. You heard the Department of Education. We, as a country, rank 40, and we're the number one spender on kids in education, and we rank 40. So clearly money isn't the problem.
Okay. Here's what's wrong with what you're saying. You say if you just give them more money, they'll be better off. That's not true.
I'm not saying if you give them more money. I'm saying, Edward, let the parents be in control of the money, not the administrators. Let the individual control it. I have to believe, Edward, that you make a much better decision on every level for your family than some administrator in Washington, D.C. Am I right?
The high school I went to in South Central will never be the same as the high school in Beverly Hills. Okay, it'll never be.
Again, I could give you an argument as to why. I'll give you an argument as to why. You're not going to like it, Edward. You're not going to like it.
It's not money.
Because
what is it?
I'll tell you why. Edward, I'm going to tell you why. I'll tell you. It's not money. Then maybe you and I agree. It's the family involvement in their kids' education. You could put the worst teachers in the world in Beverly Hills, and those kids are going to be okay because the parents are teaching those kids to read from an early age. They're holding their kids accountable when it comes to education. They're holding the administration accountable. In the hood, sadly, you have broken homes.
I don't believe you believe that. I really don't.
Well, I do believe that. And it is a sad reality. Edward, I appreciate the phone call, as always. Thank you. Look, folks, the sad reality of the situation is that we have a point where we have families that don't put a value in education. Why do you think we're failing? I'm going to tell you it's illegal aliens that don't speak English in our schools. They're bringing the entire schools down with it. That's a fact. Let me tell you about my friends over at Patriot Mobile. Why are you with the big three cell phone companies? They're literally doing everything they can to ruin America with the woke policies, the DEI nonsense, funding places like Planned Parenthood. But if you get with Patriot Mobile, you get America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. And if you use my promo code GRANT at patriotmobile.com/grant, you'll get a free month service, which is a big savings. So just call Patriot Mobile at 972-PATRIOT, 972-PATRIOT, and do what I did. Make the switch. In fact, my phone has two networks, one phone. So I have two lines on this phone. No cell phone company can do this because you choose what network you want to be on, but you don't pay the woke cell phone companies. You go with Patriot Mobile, and you know that a portion of the proceeds they make from your cell phone service are going to fund an agenda that's conservative, that's moving us in the right direction, that supports conservative causes. This is what I love about Patriot Mobile. If you're still with the other cell phone companies, I'm going to ask you why, and I'd ask you respectfully make the switch today. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. Use the promo code Grant, as I said, for a free month service. 972-PATRIOT, 972-PATRIOT. Make sure you tell them that Grant Stinchfield sent you. I want to talk about tariffs today. I want to talk about the economy today. I have been very clear. I'm concerned about the tariffs, but I'm giving President Trump great leeway in this because he's the man who brought me to the dance. I told you I put great trust in this man, and so I'm going to give him some runway on this issue of tariffs. But would I be lying to you if I said it didn't scare the bejesus out of me? I would. I'm very concerned. I see what's happening with the stock market. I do think it'll balance out. I do think fear drives so much, and fear often goes away after people start to realize what's really happening. But the uncertainty of it all certainly has some turmoil going on. And I want to bring in my very good friend with the Committee to Unleash Prosperity, a Trump advisor, our money man, Stephen Moore, is with us. Stephen, welcome to the program.
Hello, Brad. Great to be with you. I think you summarized the situation very well with these tariffs. By the way, I've discovered a great way to become a millionaire. You want to know what that is?
Tell me, please.
I'm gonna become an NGO.
Look, I think you're going to be late to the game on this because if President Trump has any way, you may not work anymore.
For those who don't know what I'm talking about, we're discovering through Doge that all these an NGO stands for a non-governmental organization, but it's a non-governmental organization that it gets all its money from the government. So explain to me, Grant, how a government, an agency that gets all its money from the government is a non-governmental office.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. But that's how people get rich.
Of all the times I've been talking about them, I actually didn't put through the dichotomy of that it just doesn't make any sense. But back to this idea of tariffs, Stephen. I know you've been a critic of tariffs. I know you don't love tariffs. I'm sure the president's real happy with you right now about that. But what do you make of everything happening here?
Well, look, I mean, I think we're all got sweaty palms right now. I think we're all very nervous about what's happened. I've lost a lot of money over the last couple of weeks. I bet most of your listeners have too, in terms of their 401k plans. But I'm very confident the market will bounce back. I think Trump is going to prevail here. Now, you're right. I'm not a big fan of tariffs. Trump gets mad at me, because I've been in meetings with him frequently, and he doesn't like when I criticize his tariffs. But by the way, everything else he does, I think, is fantastic. I love 90% of what he's doing. I think the tariffs, here's my problem. Number one, I think we got to get the tax bill done so we can head off a $4 trillion tax increase, which would be like dropping a nuclear bomb on the U.S. economy. And I think the sequencing is wrong here. I wish he would have started with getting the tax cut done, get that in our pocket so it's done, and then dealt with these tariffs. And look, I just look at this data, Grant, and Trump does have a point. All of these other countries have much higher tariffs on us than we do on them. It's no question. So I'm sick and tired of hearing these sanctimonious Europeans and the sanctimonious Canadians saying, "Oh, how dare you put tariffs on our products?" Wait a minute. They have tariffs that are 2, 3, 4 times higher than ours are. Yeah. How is it that Canada can have 100% tax on our dairy products? Grant, that doesn't sound like free trade. I thought we had a free trade agreement with Canada. So I think Trump is going to prevail here. I think, when we're talking 6 months to a year from now, stocks will have rebounded big time. I'm not a stock advisor, so I can't make, advice to people, but I've seen it happen many times before. We had some rough patches during Trump's first term, but overall, if you look at from when he entered office to when he left office, the NASDAQ was up 102%, the S&P 500 was up 60%, and the Dow Jones was up 50%. Yeah. Those are pretty good returns over 4 years.
All right. I would think that would come back as well. That's my prediction, is that this comes back. Now, I think you raise a great point, Stephen Moore, and we're talking with a man who consults with President Trump all the time, Committee to Unleash Prosperity, a great economist, free market thinker. I love this idea of getting the Trump tax cuts done. In fact, I'm going to start screaming from every program I'm on. Yeah. This needs to happen, because that would instantly spur everybody at least getting some certainty back. Your buddy Kudlow, I know you're friends with him. He's been pushing this too, I believe.
Yes. He has. I mean, Kudlow and I all both agree, and I think a lot of the people on the economics team agree. You know, we want to get at this point, though, we've just got to get the concessions from some of these countries. And I think he will, because look, Trump is a master negotiator. I've gotten to know him pretty well over the last 8 years. He's the best negotiator I've ever met. And I think in the end of the day, he's going to win concessions from Canada. I think the Europeans will lower their tariffs. And then the other thing I wish, Grant, I wonder what you think about this, is I wish we had started with China, because China is the real enemy here. I mean, Canada is our ally. China is our enemy. So let's get the tariffs. If we're going to do tariffs, let's do them against China. They steal, they cheat, they take our technologies, and they're building up their military in a very aggressive, hostile way. So I think I would fault the president a little bit on that, because China is our number one adversary in the world.
Now, there's two schools of thought on this. One may be China clearly, in my opinion, poses the biggest threat to us. So Trump goes to Mexico and Canada. These are wimps. We can handle Canada and Mexico easy. So he just goes and basically announces his presence with authority with basically two foes that are going to roll over to us in a heartbeat. Now, China, that's the big dog. Now, on a prison yard, the first thing you do is you go take out the big dog first and announce your presence with authority. That's the other school of thought. I'm worried about what China would do as retaliation. Stephen, I'm convinced they unleashed this virus on us on purpose. They don't care about human life. They will do radical things to hurt America. I'm concerned about going after China because of what they'll do back.
Well, look, our economy is still, 3 times bigger than theirs. Our capital markets, the value of our companies are 10 to 20 times higher. We have such huge leverage over China. And listen, China's economy would go into a Great Depression if they didn't have access to America's consumer market. And so we should flex our muscle with them now while we have muscle, because they are growing pretty quickly, and bring them to heel. And I think they will. I think we, obviously,
but
China,
are you worried about them retaliating in a very dangerous way?
How are they going to retaliate?
Unleash another virus on us.
Well, but if they could do that, they'd do that anyway. I mean, this is all the more. Look, you and I agree that they are a very, very dangerous country, but you want to beat them down when they're little, not when they're big. And so I think right now, and listen, our economy is so much more powerful than theirs are. They have a socialist model. Socialism doesn't work. Their economy at some point is going to implode because
their
it's
real
all
estate
directed
market is on the brink of collapse right now, from what I understand too.
Who's ours? Or
the real estate?
Ours
No,
theirs?
Their real estate market.
Yeah. So I think we should flex our muscle now. But I just want to make sure I want to walk your listeners off of the ledge right now. Yes, this has been a tough period. Yes, we've lost a lot of money in the stock market, but it's going to bounce back. And what's the old saying about the stock market? It's the only thing you really need to know. Buy low, sell high, right? Yeah. Buy low, sell high. And the stocks there's a lot of bargains out there right now. Now, I'm not saying, Grant, that we've hit bottom. We probably haven't. I'm saying, I think that if you were to buy some of these stocks today, especially the blue chips, and held on to them for the next few years, I think you're going to be a very happy camper. So that's my investment advice.
I'm not selling any of mine. I ain't taking any losses. Sure, I could use some write-offs, but I ain't taking these losses. I'm holding. I have fully expect this thing to rebound. I'm in it for the long term, and I got faith in President Trump. Stephen,
I don't know when that's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to, as I said, I don't know if it's going to happen next week or next month or 6 months from now, but there will be a rebound. I think it's going to be, as I said, just look at how Trump performed on the stock market in his first term. He's bullish. He is pro-investor, pro-America, pro-business, pro-worker, unlike Biden, whose policies, by the way, we got the best inflation report in 4 years.
Which is fabulous. Already prices starting to come down. Hey, look, if you did know when exactly it was going to happen, well, that's the way you can become a millionaire. No doubt about it. You let me know if you ever figure out the exact moment everything turns around, because we'll be wildly wealthy.
I wouldn't be a millionaire. I'd be a billionaire.
You better believe it,
look,
brother.
I can't time the market. But I'm sticking with this guy. I think he's going to really cause an incredible renaissance in the American economy. And it's going to benefit everybody, every class, the middle class, everybody's going to benefit.
Get Stephen Moore's newsletter, Committee to Unleash Prosperity. I get it every morning. I use it all the time for content too. So it's good stuff. Stephen Moore, thank you, as always, for coming on today.
Okay, Grant, have a great weekend. Talk to you soon.
Absolutely.
Bye.
You too, buddy. So, folks, listen, I think the end result of that interview is walking you off the ledge. Calm down. Be patient. Everything is going to be okay under President Trump. I'm going to ask you a question, folks. Are you ready for the worst? If you don't have prescription medications like the ones that come in the wellness companies kit, you are not ready for the worst. I get it. You may have ammunition. I get it. You may have food and water. I get it. You may have power supply. All that is super important. But prescription medications are super important, too. Imagine the drugstores are closed down and your kids need what's in here, amoxicillin, maybe ivermectin to help fight COVID, and a whole slew of other very important antibiotics, antiparasitics, and antivirals in this kit. You've got to get yourself one. All right, there's a whole slew of products on the TWC website, so I urge you to peruse it. Go to twc.health/grant. That's twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off, and make sure your family is prepared, because I don't want you suffering, folks. This will ensure that lives are saved. twc.health/grant. Use that promo code GRANT for 10% off. You won't regret it. I'd rather have this kid and not need it than need it and not have it. twc.health/grant. It is Oddball News time. Let's hit it.
It's Oddball News.
All right, folks, I guess I'll start off. I hope the boys have some stories. This one comes to us from Hollywood, California, right here in Southern California. An antique ambulance. It looks like the old Ghostbuster ambulance. You know, the Ghostbuster, excuse me, what's going on with it? Looks like the Ghostbuster ambulance. Made a 3,200-mile trip, broke the world record from Hollywood, California to Hollywood, Florida. The 1972 Cadillac Ambulance, as I like to call it, took the cross-country journey with a team from Symbiosis Ambulance and Axine Continuing Education, an emergency medical service nonprofit. The team said their journey, which began March 1st, came to a close on Monday, aimed to raise awareness of the importance of emergency medical services education. The Guinness World Records adjudicator confirmed 3,233-mile drive was a new record for the longest journey by an ambulance. How about that? Very exciting. Dan, the phone man, you are up, sir.
Grant, police in South America have come up with a very creative way to have crime busts. They've started dressing up in costume. Different videos have surfaced on social media showing officers ditching their traditional uniforms and badges and wearing costumes to arrest criminals. During Carnival, Mario and Luigi arrested a suspected thief. A group of Power Rangers caught a phone thief during Carnival. And in Peru, an officer in a capybara costume, which is kind of like a groundhog-looking thing, arrested a suspected drug dealer and seized large drug shipments.
And this is in what kind of costumes?
Oh, they're like a cosplay. So people were dressed up as Power Rangers or Mario and Luigi with the mustache. In the capybara's case, like a full-on like mascot costume. Arrested.
Oh, so they were undercover.
Yeah.
As these things. That's fascinating. You know what I would call that? I call that oddball news right there.
That's my goal.
You know who's a popular guy?
Josh Jacobs is a popular guy.
There you go. Josh Jacobs, you're up.
Hey, Grant, how's it going?
I'm good, Josh.
Well, in baseball, you got all these different types of collections and specialty hats and uniforms. Well, the Los Angeles Angels, Texas Rangers, and Houston Astros hats were pulled from fan shops over accidental vulgarities.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, the hat's part of the New Era's Overlap 5950 collection, superimposed the logo of each team over the team's name, and the mashup may seem innocuous and simple, but fans were quick to point out that less than ideal wording some of the designs created. For California, for the Angels, I keep on saying California Angels, they've not been there in 30 years, it's Anna L's is what it spelled. And then for the Houston Astros was one for Dodger fans might actually call them now, but you'll have to look up the article for that one.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh is right. So More craziness. Josh, that's oddball news too, I would say. Yeah, for sure. All right, how about Radar? Why is Radar sitting back there? It's mandatory that you have an oddball news story. This is where I rest. Don't you understand that after 3 hours of very invigorating radio?
So in Florida, this 18-year-old woman got cheated on, so she decided to go vandalize his car, only it was the wrong car. She covered the car with spray paint, threw eggs at it, the whole thing, and it was the wrong car.
The wrong car?
The wrong car.
This wasn't Tiger Woods' ex-wife, was it?
No.
What was her name? What was that? What was her name? It went crazy on
Elin
Tiger's
Nordegren.
car. Elon, yeah. Elon. Oh, not Elon. Elin, I think is her name. I hope it wasn't Elin Nordegren. That was good work. All right, I didn't think you were going to be ready. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thanks so much for watching. Stinchfield's Army rolls because of you. Remember, subscribe to the podcast no matter where you're listening. Subscribe. Follow me on all the social media platforms at Stinchfield1776. And it's even better if you copy the link to this and share it on all your social media platforms. But again, if you're watching on Rumble, you can always download the app too. That is a great move as well. We will see you on the Real America's Voice show tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm grateful to all of you. Thanks for watching today.